TTT THROWDOWN!
On this week's Throwdown, we have Audacious Ashley demo the workout.
We've got overhead squats and burpees.
We release these workouts right here on YouTube every Thursday, sometime around 1 p.m.
Now what? What do we do
I
next?
say what the actual workout is.
Oh, perfect. You want to do that for
I'm
me?
gonna need to look at. This week's Throwdown is an 11-minute clock. You're starting off with 3 rounds of 8 overhead squats at 95 pounds for the guys, 65 for the girls, and 8 lateral burpees over the bar. Then you're going into 3 more rounds of 8 overhead squats at 135 and 95, and 8 bar-facing burpees. In the remaining time, you're performing an AMRAP of 8 overhead squats at 165 and 115, and 8 burpee box jump overs.
The Open is over, and many of you are asking, now what? For those who have qualified for the quarterfinals, congratulations, you have earned it. Our Elite, Masters, and RX Training Pass will focus on properly peaking you for the 2024 quarterfinal events, including a full quarterfinal simulation on the weekend of April 5th through the 7th, where we will practice the intensity of the quarterfinals. During quarterfinals, our athletes will receive full pacing and strategy documents along with tip videos for each of the workouts. For those who didn't qualify for quarterfinals or are choosing not to compete, we will have a dedicated training path just for you. This path will shift into an off-season strength phase that is dedicated to building the requisite strength and gymnastic skills that are needed to compete in the sport of CrossFit. For more information, go to trainingthinktank.com.
This week's demo athlete is Ashley Wozni. She's a team games athlete and individual high-level semifinals athlete that's very strong and missed out on the games by 1 spot last year.
For a full warm-up, a leaderboard, and scaling options, click the link down below.
Did she miss by 1 spot last year or 2?
I think it was more than 1, but
Oh.
that's okay.
Yeah, 1 sounds better than 2.
She missed out on the games last year by a couple points.
Let's rub it in.
Yeah. All right, let's start with number 1. In this workout, pacing is going to be key. Similar to what we saw in Open Workout 24.3, this workout is going to be dictated largely by the last portion with the heaviest bar. So make sure that in the earlier parts of this workout, you're pacing yourself appropriately to make sure that you can get the most reps possible in the burpee box jump 3-rounder.
It's not 3 rounds, it's an AMRAP.
In the burpee box jump multi-rounder.
Number 2, so there's a lot of burpees in this workout, and there are 3 different styles of burpees. You want to make sure that your footwork is dialed in for each one of them. So before the workout, practice what you want to do footwork-wise for each separate type of burpee and have a plan going into it.
And tip number 3, you need to find the most efficient way for you to get into the overhead squat. For some of you, you can squat snatch this, and that's super efficient. You can breathe well and get right into your first rep. That's probably the best way to do it. But for many of us, especially with that last barbell, it's going to be heavy. So practicing a clean and jerk to get it overhead, stabilized, and then into your overhead squat will be the best option for you.
And now, the 3 most famous words in CrossFit.
Let's see it.
And we're off.
And there's the clock. All right.
Boom. One of our tips right away, she squat snatched it. Again, if you can't squat snatch some of the heavier bars, then clean and jerk.
Yeah, I think for this earlier bar, most people that are probably prepping for quarterfinals can squat snatch this bar. I think in the later bars, it's going to be maybe a little bit harder for people.
Yeah.
Lateral burpees, they're back.
Yeah. So this is basically similar to the exact standard that was in the 24.1 workout. So whatever footwork you use there is probably the same here. I think staying low is probably just the biggest key. That was a huge separator looking at that first workout. The people that stood all the way up definitely lost a lot of time and energy, and the people that stayed lower just seemed to go a lot faster through the workout.
Yeah. Some people said that it was hard for them to breathe while staying low, and that is a skill. You have to practice that kind of deep hinge position and breathing in that.
I think for a lot of people that tried to jump up, it ended up not being successful unless you were very high level. So that step up on the lateral, I think, is smart.
Yeah, I think this is this workout could be a big separator for like top level elite. And I don't think in this format, it's only going to be 24 of these lateral burpees, that the speed of them is going to be the big separator, because I think the later barbell is going to really be the big separator for elite. So I probably wouldn't worry about being super fast on your burpees here. I think just being smooth and getting through the first portions, feeling like you're feeling good.
Yeah. I really like that she's opening her hip up all the way at the top, take your time, especially on the early bars, because you don't want no reps in quarterfinals when they are reviewing a little bit more of a strict standard.
Yeah, so this is something that we're kind of predicting format-wise is similar to what we see in quarterfinals, that there's a low barrier to entry movement-wise and loading-wise, and it gets heavier as you go so that people that are in the 75th percentile can do the same workout as people that are in the 99th percentile that are trying to qualify for it.
Yeah. I'm going to critique her footwork a little bit. She's cleaned it up now, but her first burpee of each one, she stepped up with her inside foot, and then she went back to her outside foot. Either way, I mean, just stick to one pattern, but you don't want to keep stepping up with the same leg every single time.
So 2 minutes and 10 seconds to finish the first three rounds for time, and then she's transitioning pretty quick. That was a less than 10-second transition right into it. So,
and as you're watching this, I almost fell out of the chair. She is a very, very strong athlete. So how quickly she moves through the overhead squats might not make the most sense for a lot of people. I do think for something like an overhead squat, because of how much work it is to get into the set, sometimes it's worth just waiting a little bit more and then doing the set unbroken versus trying to transition really quickly if you're going to have to break.
Yeah, it's not like a deadlift, right, where you could break it at 5 and 5 and drop the barbell, pick it back up. This, you have to get all the way back into the squat. So that's I agree with you, Mia.
This is something I think to think about as we move into quarterfinals. The standard and the video submission becomes something that CrossFit is going to enforce where they didn't really do it in the open. So as you're doing these workouts for the next 3 weeks leading into quarterfinals, definitely be mindful of all of your movement reps. Like maybe do a couple on camera beforehand, make sure that you have some judges watching over you. There's always going to be some riding the line in a competitive setting, but you'd probably want to err on the side of making sure your reps are clean so that way you don't get a penalty, because with only 40 people, especially in the East or in like a European regional, if only a small number of people are qualifying, a major penalty can probably keep you out of the competition at this point.
Yeah.
Or even if we're not looking at qualifying, but like getting better at your ranking year to year, you just want to make sure that you're not risking those things.
Yeah. She has an interesting footwork strategy here. Generally, when people step up, I try to get them to step closer to the bar with their back foot, and she kind of leaves the back foot back. I don't know if there's a wrong or right. She's pretty consistent all the way through here. But again, we said it in the initial work smarter thing. Make sure that your footwork is basically pre-planned ahead of time and that you stick to it and don't have extra steps on either side of this. This isn't probably going to be where people separate, but it's still something to work on and make sure you have dialed in.
Yeah, it didn't look like she was going for speed on those. It seemed like it was a more relaxed, controlled burpee, which I think is great. I do think that if you can get yourself into a position where you're doing like a pseudo-lateral jump over the bar, it makes the turnaround on the other side faster without putting more effort into it. So she's taking those 2 steps to turn around. If she stepped up in a lateral position and then jumped laterally over the bar, she could just take 1 step back, which I don't think is more tiring, but is faster.
Yeah, and it's not going to separate here as much, but it's something to probably practice. And also, they used to have the 2-footed takeoff standard in CrossFit, and I guess they got so much flack for it and never enforced it that they kind of pulled it off, and now you only have to be airborne on both feet. I would tell everybody to try to maximize that for yourself and not jump off of 2 feet.
She's doing a good job of that.
Basically what she did there, which in the old format of bar-facing burpees would have been technically no reps. But with the new standard, I would encourage everybody to do that and basically push the line so you're not stepping over but making it close.
A quick note, we allowed her to use 3 bars because in 24.3 in the open, they allowed 2 bars. And so we just said, yeah, you can do that if you have access. But most people we know probably only have access to 1 bar or maybe only 2 bars. So I would suggest using this as an opportunity to practice changing your own weights in case they do standardize that, because that takes time. And if you don't know how to breathe well while you're bending over and changing the weight, that can impact your total time or total reps.
Watching her, so I'm going to talk retroactively about her last overhead squat there. I think it was still clean. I'd have to maybe go and freeze frame it. The cost of a no rep on a last set of a bar on an overhead squat is really high because you drop it and then have to potentially snatch or clean and jerk it back up. So make sure on the last rep of all overhead squats or thrusters, those types of movements that are big movements, that you make sure that your lockout is as clear and definitive as your normal reps. Just something to think about.
Can I just take this time to say God bless all of our on-site athletes for doing these demos, because all we get to do is sit here and nitpick them for the sake of everybody else in the world, and we appreciate you
It's
guys.
a great
That's
way
true.
for them to get better, though.
Yeah,
So,
I did.
don't feel bad.
I thanked Mike and Brandy for the open, so I guess should we do a gratitude segment every week for the people that demo this? I think we should.
No, that's a
let's
little
not get
excessive.
too soft on it.
I'll just keep sending them back to that last 20 seconds I have.
Okay,
So
fine.
overhead squat, she's squat snatching again. We said she's very, very strong. I personally would clean and jerk the bar overhead so that I could feel more stable with the heavier bar. That could be something to play around with in your warm up and see what feels better.
Are you saying for you, or that you
For
recommend
me,
that for her?
like
Oh,
that's
okay.
what I. That's just
gotcha.
a different strategy that I would take. I don't think she should change her strategy.
So she finished the first 6 rounds in just around 5 minutes. What was the actual
Yeah, it
time?
was
Brandon?
5:07.
5:07. So that means she had 6 minutes to do this portion where the final score is basically going to be aggregated. For her, she can just basically do the burpees and just go pick the bar up and do it unbroken every set. There might be other people that are really good at burpees, but maybe not as strong, where you would have to maybe go faster here on the burpee box jump overs and then do a slow transition and maybe break that overhead squat up in multiple sets if you have to. So this last portion, when you're watching a super powerful athlete do it, she's kind of just going smooth and steady with fast pickups on the bar, but you might not have the luxury of being able to do that. You might have to strategize that last segment based on how much time do you have for this last portion, and how strong are you? Like, she just basically picked that up and snatched
Yeah, it
it
looks
like
easy.
it's no big deal. But that weight is not, for most people, going to be that easy.
Right. Yeah. So she did one of our demos for our Summer Sizzler, or sorry, the Winter is Coming Classic that we did in December. And that workout had deadlift, chest to bar, and burpee box jump over. And she averaged about 3.5 seconds per rep on the burpee box jump overs in that workout, because she still can move fast in her burpees. But you see here, she's averaging like 4.5 or even 5 seconds per rep. And that's intentional, Max, to your point, because she knows she can go fast in the barbell and then use the burpee almost as a rest time so that she can get over there and pick up the barbell right away.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I don't think there's that many people just in the world that would have a super fast transition to the heavy bar and then could hold a fast burpee cadence. I
Right.
think you're talking about an individual games athlete caliber performance if you could do that. And this is pretty close, I think, to what a top level person could do, since she is.
Yeah, so you got to pick your poison, right? Like
Yeah.
which one is your strength? Try to push that and then maybe pace the other side.
Another thing, too, since we kind of got a close up, this technique where people jump up on the box, stay low, and have their front facing foot almost half hanging off really helps with getting off smoothly. So they practice a lot just getting that technique kind of dialed in. It's something that, if you can dial your footwork in on top of the box, can make the step off a lot easier for you when you're doing big burpee box jump sets.
Yeah, I think similar here to her burpee box or burpee bar facing burpee technique. I think even though she's trying to move smoothly on them, cleaning up her footwork on the way down to just take away some steps could make it a little bit faster without spending more energy. When I look at something like a burpee and footwork, I think about where can I take away steps or time without making it harder, and usually that's getting back down to the ground, not getting up and over something.
Yeah.
So she's picking it up a little bit here,
Yeah,
but
she's
she
picked up
was
her pace.
yeah, she was taking like 2
Oh,
to
like
3
that.
little pitter patter steps before dropping down to the ground. I would say, can we, like, that one was a lot better. Can we do that? Swing that back foot all the way back as a step versus the 2 small steps.
Yeah,
That
this
makes
set
sense.
was actually really good to, if people want to go back and rewind it, her first 2 or 3 reps were really clean footwork on both sides. And then now there's multiple steps on both sides to go down. She's at the end of the workout now. There's only 30 seconds left. And I'm guessing she's pretty hurting at this point. So it makes sense that the kind of coordination falls off. But in the later rounds of workouts, the people that can maintain their technique and efficiency are usually the people that put up the best in the world scores. So it's something to think about as you're going through a workout. The better you can maintain the technique, probably the better you're going to score relative to your potential.
Yeah, and make sure you're watching the clock. She did, and Perrin was yelling at her, make sure you get the overhead squats done and then sprint the burpees. But, I mean, there's going to be a
There's
lot of
not
room
much
on the leaderboard.
Oh, yeah, she's got a little sprint in her. Look, she's still got some springy bunnies.
Boom.
Bam.
Nice.
2 burpees.
Great
Good
job,
job,
Ashley.
Ashley.
Solid work.
Good job, Ash.
Thanks.